Welcome into the Inquirer podcast. It is Jeremy Werner and Derek Piper live at Enterprise Center, where Illinois won bragging rights for the second straight time, for the first time since 2017. Hard to believe, but Illinois gets it done in a tough, competitive game from the players. Not so much by the refs when I say good game, but 80-77. Illinois gets it done. Another close game, but they find a way to close it out. 2 games of the last 4 they've closed out. 2 of the last 4 they haven't been able to close out. But a lot to talk about with this one, Derek. As Kasparas, Jakucionis, and Kylan Boswell really shined again. That backcourt is becoming a thing, and they complement each other extremely well. Trey White and Tomislav Ivisic, pretty good games. Morez Johnson, some extended playing time. The people wanted to see it, and it was pretty good. But also a lot of fouls and a lot of free throws for the second time in a row, which is getting a little frustrating. But Derek, they get the bragging rights game. They get to 8-3. This one felt really important because Illinois has not lost back-to-back games yet this year. They continue that. They were on the brink at some points as Missouri goes on that 11-0 run, but Illinois finds a way to respond. So what's your big takeaway?
It's a nice win. Absolutely wild game. Refs had a lot to do with that, obviously, with disjointing the flow of it and just what was called and what wasn't called, inconsistency in the physicality that was allowed and not allowed. So we just really had to battle through still some growing pains in late game where you have a 10-point lead and it becomes a 1-point lead, and then obviously you lose it in a matter of it's 11-0 run for Mizzou in 2 minutes and some change. So closing out games, stepping on opponents' throats, that's been a process to still work through and to get to. They haven't quite gotten there yet, obviously, but between the fouls and it felt like just a new team still trying to figure it out. But to step up and have KJ hit that turnaround jumper like a grown man, like a killer, that's a big deal. And Kylan was all over the court today. I know he wasn't making shots, and his field goal percentage isn't going to be helped by this game, but rebounds, thought he penetrated really, really well. He made some really beautiful deliveries where I think Missouri blew up a lot of Illinois' ball screen stuff with KJ. Kylan was able to make some things happen downhill and draw a lot of fouls himself. So it's never a bad feeling when you take the trophy back home. It's been too long since Illinois has gone on a little bit of a streak here in this series, and they've been the better program since Brad's been hired. It's just been a tricky game for him for whatever reason. But I'm sure, however it looked, and it was ugly at times. Referees, part of that for sure. That he'll have a smile on his face for Christmas and the holidays because they got that trophy yet again.
Yeah, for all his great things that he's accomplished here, it's hard to believe that 2 years ago Brad Underwood was 2-4 in this game, and now to get back-to-back wins to get to 500 in this game is a big deal for him. Derek, you know me, and I think you and I are both this way. Like, we'll talk about the refs, but I usually don't want to put too much on the refs because it's a difficult job. That's why a lot of people don't want to do it, and I have a really hard job finding referees these days. But man, it's just 2 games in a row where I just thought the refs got in the way of what could have been a great game. Like too many fouls, too many free throws. It's a physical game. You have to be able to rein that in at some points, but just the contested at the rim fouls. So Morez Johnson was just going vertical and getting called for fouls, and some of the touch things they were doing. This felt like what a bragging rights game should be. It felt like the last 3 years we hadn't had this because they weren't competitive at all. And you and I and Joey, I think, wrote about this yesterday. It's like, in the transfer portal age, what is this game? Because Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn and I think, 3 Missouri players had played in this game last year. So, like, there's hardly any history here. But these 2 teams are diving for the ball. They're playing hard. They're playing physical. And I just thought both sides brought it today. And, yeah, you got to call fouls and they got to stop fouling. But at some points, like some of these was just a tight whistle the entire game when it's like, this is the kind of game, and I thought Tennessee was too. Let them play a little bit because this is fun to watch.
No doubt. Yeah, I remember the Northwestern game. Not to say they didn't swallow their whistle at times and when there was clear hacks. And there is – it just seems college basketball it's hard to find the right balance where it's either too much is called, it's too tight, it's too much of a just stop and start and go to the free throw line a bunch, or nothing's called and people are getting obliterated. So I think if you have to choose one, you would like let them play for the most part. But they lost control of this game. They really did, because they set the bar at if you go to the lane and you sell contact and you get some of it and then really show that you're getting fouled or that there is a collision here, we're going to call it. And then it just was repeatedly this and that. And then when something wasn't called, people were freaking out. And you had both sides that were not happy with the refs. Dennis Gates obviously ends up on the court at one point. It could have been ejected. Illinois fans were displeased for a variety of reasons throughout. I mean, I thought they had a case for Tamar Bates. Maybe, not even maybe. He hit the head of KJ after a foul, and they reviewed it. Could have been a tech on him there. The Morez call was awful. The Trey White one it seemed like he maybe got hooked, and they called a foul on him late to tie the game up. So,
but both those guys, like on the one with Trey, like both those guys are just battling for a really important rebound. Let them go. Like they were just kind of pushing each other, and that's physical basketball, and it felt like a rivalry game. And to call a foul on Trey, or even if they had called on the Mizzou kid, I was just like, let them figure it out themselves. Let them decide the game, and that tied up the game. And here we go. It's a 1-possession game each way.
Yeah, and that tested an Illinois team that could have thought in their head, all right, late game, we just have struggled to close these things out, and a call like that maybe unravels some things, and you lose your composure. But the good thing is, and we'll talk about it, you've got a backcourt duo that you can put a lot of trust in. Two guys that made big plays in that final minute. Again, the turnaround, KJ, the rebound and free throw by Kylan. I know he missed it. The second one, they gave Mizzou a chance to tie, but still that's part of it. And just there is some just riding that roller coaster out, and you need different guys to step up in different moments. And it's one of those toughness games, both mentally and physically. So Illinois ultimately prevailed, and it's one that you're happy that as of now it's a quad one game. We'll see how that plays out. SEC is really tough. Mizzou's going to have it up against them in terms of their schedule, but they've been a much improved team to this point in comparison to last year. And obviously, it was hard not to be after you lose 19 straight games in last season.
Yeah. So Missouri's got some tough physical guards. I thought Illinois did a fantastic job on Anthony Richardson today, but Tamar Bates and Tony Perkins got a combined 15 free throws between those two, so they ended up with 35 combined points. Mark Mitchell was a problem today, getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line. He missed a lot of free throws, though. That really hurt Missouri. But the competitive advantage for Illinois here, and it's to take away nothing from the front court, who I was pretty impressed with today. But Kylan Boswell and Kasparas Jakucionis, this is looking like one of the premier backcourt duos, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country. And they just complement each other so well, Derek. You see the late game heroics again of KJ, and it's just different. Like you asked Brad about it yet again, like him closing, because it's so rare to see a freshman come in and do this and close games out and do it consistently pretty much. Just 11 games into his career. Like Brad said, Iowa wasn't doing this early in his freshman year. He started to do it late with that Michigan State win. But to hit those two big field goals that, again, all in isolation, right? This is an ISO guy, go gets buckets. That's NBA stuff. The three, the fadeaway jumper with great defense on him, makes both of those. But then Kylan just attacking the rim. He was 2 of 12. He is not shooting well, but he's finally starting to attack the rim. He had 12 free throw attempts today. I don't know how many he had all of last season with Arizona, but it wasn't much more than 12. Like it didn't. He is just getting in attack mode right now. He's got more space in this offense, and you see he's getting through there. But just the toughness plays he made. 9 rebounds tonight was a career high. Had 5 assists, creates for his opponents, and then both those guys defensively I think are really good. Like Kasparas is better than I thought, and Kylan Boswell is even better than I thought he would be. So that is a great duo, and it looks like, Derek, they are getting really comfortable together. That Kasparas is fine when Kylan has to go be that secondary playmaker and give him a little bit of a break, and he does it really well. And then Kylan isn't – like he celebrates Kasparas being the dude that he is. Yeah,
no doubt. That's well said for sure. Kylan has taken a mature role, it seemed, even though he's only 1 year older than KJ, but he just has that. He comes to college basketball early, has a lot of experience under his belt, and is fine in saying, he could have come back home and say, hey, wait, it's supposed to be my keys to the offense, it's supposed to be my show. And I think defensively, obviously, and leadership-wise, which I know Joey's writing about and got some good answers from Brad and everything as far as that goes, that has been really encouraging to see Kylan really wrap his arms around it and want that, where we know that there have been teams previously that you're at this point in the season and deeper where you're like, all right, who is the leader of this squad and who's stepping up in that? So they do complement each other well because they're both comfortable off the ball. Kylan still can shoot the three better, which I think is something well within his capabilities that he'll get to. But outside of that, I mean, outside of making some shots, that he did everything else. And KG didn't have his best game either. I mean, he had some sloppy turnovers and just some moments that he'd like to have back and clean up from. But it says a lot. Number one, he hit 2 deep threes in the first half, a step back, and then a really deep one late in the clock that just you shake your head at, and that's a pro shot.
He's the only dude on this team consistently making threes right now. Like, and
I know, right?
The level of difficulty compared to his teammates is ridiculous. They're all step back contested while his teammates are getting open threes and missing them. So it's just huge. I mean, you brought up those first half 3-pointers, just huge for this team.
Big time. And then, to be able to go to him in the late game and have him show the poise to make that shot. The game changes in the final minute. It just does, especially in this stage, the crowd, the emotions of this game, the 4-foot trophy that you're playing for. And not everybody rises to that challenge, especially as a freshman. I would assume that we sung his praises forever, and deservingly so. You look at his box score from his freshman year, had 2 points, 4 turnovers, and was barely a factor. And that's a big-time player that obviously grew into being a legend at Illinois. But KJ was ready for this moment when it mattered most, and that says a lot about him and just who he's played against, where he's been. And I'm looking forward to diving into that from my story. It's just he is that guy. He's got a toughness about him and wants the ball in those moments.
I want to break it down some of the other players here, but just overall with this team, Derek, coming through this schedule, the Ole Miss game happens where they kind of get beat up right away and just kind of were in a shell the rest of the way, kind of made a late rally, but they felt out toughed in that game, right? And then Tennessee, Alabama, you just got kind of blitzed in that game with how good that offense was. But you didn't show a lot of toughness defensively. I thought Northwestern late in that game, you saw a team that looked tougher and older. But Tennessee, I was so impressed with Illinois' toughness against that team. Here, against Missouri, big, physical, athletic. I think Dennis Gates has done a pretty good job turning over that roster. Not a good shooting team, which we'll get into a question from Def here a little bit later that has to deal with that. But this team's tougher than I thought it would be. And I give Brett Underwood and his staff credit for some of that because it's kind of more of a finesse-built team, right? But, the defense and the way they're playing, I mean, Missouri was 8 of 20 on layups tonight and 10 of 22 at the rim tonight. Out-rebounded Missouri 42-30. Second-chance points. Illinois had 12 offensive rebounds tonight and had 13-8 second-chance point advantage. So Tomislav is kind of a finesse player, but he keeps getting double-digit rebounds. He's been a way better rebounder than I thought. I thought Morez Johnson obviously brought a lot to the game today. I thought Ben Humrickhouse battled defensively. He was just getting attacked. But you did see Trey White. Illinois went small, as a kind of wrinkle that we haven't seen a lot. Both Morez playing more and Trey White playing a little bit smaller. And I thought Trey really battled against guys that were bigger than him. So Kasparas has a toughness. We know Kylan does as well. This team's a little bit tougher and grittier than I thought they would be, even just a month ago.
I agree with you. That's really encouraging because I think that if it was flipped, if we were at this point in the year and we said, okay, we see the offensive skill, but we don't know if they have toughness, physicality to them, can they play defense, if that would ever come. I still put faith in the shot making that this team is capable of. They have not been shooting the three very well. And if you compare that with the defense that they've shown to this point, the toughness, and that's a promising formula that this team can find. And then obviously the guard duo that I put a lot of confidence in. So you're right. I know that Brad really prioritized shot making, skill, versatility offensively. He is pretty open about, offense maybe being the ultimate trump card and how he builds his rosters. But there is a good dose of defense in Kylan, premier on-ball defender, premier guy, and Morez is great on the glass and on down the line. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn's another guy I throw in there that's got a grittiness to him, and he came in and gave you some energy and some points. So, that's something I wondered about this team. Would they find that toughness? And to this point, they've been tested. That's great. That's one of the things that you put the schedule together. I know this is always built in, but Tennessee with it and Ole Miss, like you said, that's what you hope to get out of it, is learn about that and then have that tested and pushed. And this team has responded well to it.
Last 3 games, Trey White, 46 points, Derek. That's the Trey White we heard about during the spring. But I feel like he's settling in. I don't think 23 is going to happen very often. It hasn't in his career. But to get double-digit points the games after he gets 23, to get 11, to get 13, to help Kasparas, to help Kylan and Tomislav, they just need another scorer to step up, especially with Will Riley in the shooting slump that he is. So to get that kind of scoring off the wing is huge. And 8 rebounds twice in the last 3 games. I just think he's finding it, right? Like, we knew it would take some time for some of these guys, and we've seen it with Kylan Boswell the last 4, 5, 6 games. Now with Trey White in these last 3 games, you're starting to see these veterans that you need to step up. We'll talk about Hummerkaus here in a minute, but Trey and Kylan especially, as guys that can be good scorers for you, are finally settling in that helps Kasparas so much.
Huge. Yeah, Trey is someone that should look like he's played a bunch of high major basketball. I mean, he's the stat now is close to 60 starts in high majors, and somebody that is capable as a scorer. And he's not going to have on this team much run to him as far as that goes, but they put him in the middle of the zone at times, and he does have. I know Brad will whether it's joking or not, I think it's halfway. Is that don't want many mid-range jumpers being taken, but Trey's good at that. That's one thing that he's capable of doing. But really, rebounding has really picked up. A bit more consistent for him. I think offensive rebounding is still something that he can really hang his hat on most games. And it shouldn't be lost on, as big of the shot as KJ had. I mean, to end the 11-0 run with an and one at the rim by Trey was a huge moment because it just felt like an avalanche just crashing down in Illinois. To be on the wrong side of, you had this big lead, and then all of a sudden Mizzou's leading 2.5 minutes later. And
were you imagining the podcast if that would have kept up?
I was.
That's what I was thinking.
I really was. I was like, oh boy, here we go again. I was imagining the press conference that Brad would have after another one of these just goes awry. So yeah, that was a huge play, and credit to him because again, he's been here before, and now he's looking like it.
Can I give you a stat that's just amazing to me? Going back to Boswell, last year at Arizona, he had 39 free throw attempts in 36 games, so just over 1. After getting 11 of 12 today, I think they were all in the second half too for Kylan. I'll have to check that, but he's got now 54 in 11 games, 5 per game. Like, he's going up 4 per game. That's a huge stat. Like, that's just a complete different player than he was at Arizona. And a lot of that has to do with, the offense that Illinois plays and Omar Ballo not being on the block and some of the other pieces that he has around him. But it's also a mentality thing. And a lot of those have come over the last 5-6 games, right? So that's really encouraging for me to see that.
He's built like a halfback. Like, he should be able to go there in the lane and be able to draw that contact. So, but yeah, I think that, he's mentioned every time that he's been asked about it is that it is a different offensive with the spacing. To see a wide open lane a lot of times because Tommy stretches out the big guy, and there is the opportunity to attack downhill, but I think it's the mentality and confidence that Brad's put in him. I know he gives that a lot of credit for the defensive elevation that he's had. He went from being a really good defender at Arizona to maybe a top-notch elite defender now. And but yeah, he knows that lane's open and that he's got the physicality and strength, and they've worked on that a lot. They knew that was a huge blemish in his resume through 2 years at Arizona is that he didn't get to the line, he didn't finish well around the rim. So they really tried to address that with him, and to his credit, he's doing that a lot more. And it's one of the things I wrote about a tweak or something that Illinois needs to build on through 10 games and obviously now 11 is some secondary playmaking, some just taking some of the load off the plate for KJ on offense. I think some of that downhill pressure that KJ can put on, or that Kylan can put on the team, the opponent, is part of that formula for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes he got his own offensive rebound when he did it. And I thought when Morez is in the game, you definitely attack the rim. Even if you don't make the shot, you get blocked, whatever. Morez is going to be there to clean it up. So let's talk about that, Derek. Early in this game, Missouri was really attacking Ben Hummerkaus. Again, I think he's battling defensively. I think he's really putting out a lot of effort. I thought he showed some toughness. Again, only 1 rebound in 21 minutes. It bothers me. Only 1 of 3 from 3, but he did make 1. But only played 21 minutes in this game. Had some foul trouble, but so did Morez. Especially in that second half from Morez with some terrible calls. But Morez plays 19 minutes. That's the most for him in a while. And you also have Trey White playing more at the 4. Do you think after tonight we'll see more of that moving forward? Do you think we have to?
I think you will. Part of it, as you go into Big Ten play, there's a lot of teams that play two bigs. And that was one thing that, as you looked at Missouri, they mostly have had a 7-footer at center and then 6'9", 230 and Mark Mitchell at the 4. And that was scary early, where that's the natural matchup for Ben. And if you don't put him on there, then you either got him against a 7-footer or you got him against some other guard that they are going to put out there. So they went at him, they targeted him, and I didn't feel like it was any kind of like out of position thing, or like you said, him necessarily being soft. He was just getting by. Credit to Mark Mitchell for going at him and playing through contact, and he just made the shots. And Morez is more of an athlete and more physical than Ben, so I think that matchup played better to Illinois. Although, like you said, Morez found some foul trouble as well.
Illinois was a +10 with Morez Johnson on the court.
Yeah.
Continues to be the case, doesn't it? He is such an impact player. And Kylan talked about it after the game. And I agree with you. Like, you think of Michigan, who I think could be a Big Ten title contender. Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, Morez Johnson's going to have to be on the court. Now you worry about fouls with the Ivisic and Morez, and you worry about condensing the offense a little bit with that. But I love getting him 15 plus a game. I still think Humrickhouse needs to be a part of this team. He needs to make shots. Will Riley needs to make shots, but Morez has earned it because he just keeps making a positive impact on this team. Like, he had 3 defensive rebounds, didn't have a block tonight, Derek, but I don't know how many stops we would qualify him for, because it just felt like he cut off their water at times defensively.
He did. And I thought there were a couple of good possessions where he wasn't on Mitchell, that he came over and helped and really walled up and made it tough for him to find an angle to put up a shot. So he's just got that frame. He plays with tenacious energy. And like you said, with Michigan, you can go to Maryland, who looks like a contender in the Big Ten as well, with Derek Queen and Julian Reese. And Purdue, we know Trey Kaufman-Renn, and they'll play William Berg with him at times. And going
it's
down the
1990 again in the Big Ten with all these bigs.
You know, Indiana's living in 1990. So you can keep going throughout the league. There are just a lot of teams that like to play that way, or are built to play that way. So I think until you really see it be a limit offensively, and look, I think the one thing you would counter if you were arguing against it is, well, shooting. Illinois is struggling to get shooting from Ben Humrickhouse, from Will Riley, and that's something that you're not really trading away by putting Morez in there right now. I'm not saying I don't think those guys will continue to obviously struggle like this. They should be plus shooters on the whole, but I think it's becoming increasingly clear that the fan base has been pounding that table for it, and I think the evidence is there that he should continue to trend in that direction.
He needs more minutes. But I don't know if he needs to start the next game. I don't know if he needs to play 30 minutes. I don't think he's capable, because I think he's going to foul a lot, right? But he's deserved more minutes. I think he deserves to be more of a 20-minute a game kind of guy. But Ben, his shooting is going to be important at some point. Like, I see his shots. Like, there's been some shot selection we've talked about the last couple of games, but I look at his shots. They're good shots. They look good coming off when he doesn't rush them. The guy I'm concerned about right now with shooting is Will Riley, because I know he's a good shooter. I know he'll go off some game. And I love that Brad just tells his guys, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. I think that's the smartest thing you can do. But he's going through it right now. The last 5 games, he's 2 for 23 from the field. Last 2 games, he's 2 for 17 from the field, 2 for 23 the last 5 games from 3. The problem with Will right now is sometimes he disrupts the offense. Like, it just goes in Will's hand and it doesn't come out. He's going to find a shot. But even his open shots, Derek, I feel like his feet need to get set. It feels like his feet are always in some different position. Like, Kasparas has his feet under him. Ben has his feet under him. It just feels like sometimes Will is playing off one foot too often, or just, his feet are all kind of screwed up. So they need some offense at some point, because you think if Will Riley and Ben Humrickhouse are making shots the last 2 games, Illinois would be 9-1 with one of the best resumes in the country right now.
For sure. Yeah.
Because they got open looks, man. They get open looks.
Big time. I mean, Illinois has really struggled to get fast break points, but there was an opportunity where it was maybe a KJ push, kick to Ben, skip to the corner, and Will has as good a look as you could possibly ask for, wide open from the corner, and he misses it way short. It just is somebody that probably is in his head some and is losing confidence. But yeah, I think mechanically I can see that bothering him or just hindering him a little bit. There's been a lot of times where he's maybe overcomplicated some things. I think the Tennessee game was a great example where he just put too much on the deck instead of just trying to focus on, okay, if I got space, catch, shoot, go up, make it clean and simple. And some of it maybe is just the game being fast.
Yeah, I think he needs to simplify things, right?
Yeah.
For me, it'd be catch and shoot threes and offensive rebound.
I feel like that's going to be good at.
Yeah, he's really good at. Like, I just feel like if you can concentrate on those three things, I got Kasparas, I got Kylan. Those guys can go create. They do like running them off ball screens, and when Kasparas is out, I'm fine running a little bit of offense through Will, but he's not physical enough at this point in his maturity, right? Just physical maturity to kind of deal with the physicality. I mean, when this slump has occurred, it's no surprise. It's Arkansas, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Missouri. These are all strong physical guys, and that's why I think Will could be a first-round pick if he were – went into the draft because of his potential. But like the reason I feel like he could come back another year and really skyrocket is he just needs another year of strength to kind of really unlock his full potential. But yeah, like he just needs to learn. Like, and I think simplifying, as you said, is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I think, and also you get a little bit of a reset now.
Yeah,
and get in the practice gym, get a confidence boosting game against Chicago State, and wouldn't be surprising if he knocks down some there and then goes on that road on the West Coast swing and is back into the shot making mode. You're still going to respect the fact that he can get on a heater. I think opponents are still going to certainly understand that about him. But yeah, I do think it is one of those where maybe it's just trying to do too much, and maybe it is just I think KJ is a guy that can set other guys up and just catch and shoot if you got space, and otherwise, like you said, go to the glass and use your energy. I think that's not been one thing that I've questioned with him. He plays hard. And
yes.
He's 6'9", that length plays for sure.
Yeah, the one he hit was off a KJ screen and pop, and he was wide open, had his feet set, and nailed it. I do want to mention Dre Gibbs-Allhorn, his best game in quite a while. 7 points, was a big push off the bench. He ended up like a -11 in the minutes he was in. He's still fouling a little bit, but good to see a little bit of offense from him, Derek, because they need that from a guard off the bench.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's somebody that is fully capable of providing a nice little scoring punch. And I think as Illinois gets out and maybe plays a little bit faster, that could work to him getting to the rim. But I felt like he played pretty well under control for the most part. You're able to make some plays in the lane, and a guy that can knock down an occasional three as well. So I think it's something for him that you hope he just can build on it and make it something where he can become a little bit more consistent, a little bit more reliable night to night on what you're going to get out of him. And, still just a sophomore, so a process, but he's capable of it. You just haven't seen it as far as in high major competition, and that'd be something that he can do yet night to night.
All right, Derek, let me throw this at you before we get some of our super chats and talk about the non-conference and the Big Ten ahead. Missouri's now 10. Illinois snapped a 10-game winning streak. Does this hold up as a quad one victory? They came into this game 41 in the net. It's got to be top 50 in a neutral site to be a quad one victory. Does this one hold up as they head to the SEC? They get Auburn on January 4th, Florida on January 14th. It's the best conference, so I think, in the country this year.
Yeah.
It's basically, is this an NCAA tournament team question, right? Missouri.
Right. One of the good things is that if they do go through a rough patch or just don't finish above 500 in the SEC, a lot of their losses will be quad one losses, don't really maybe hurt their net ranking and their resume all that much. I watched the Kansas game and I thought that they were decently impressive. I mean, 22 turnovers, they punked that team. They don't shoot that well. They have not defensive rebounded great. And that's a good question. I would probably lean towards no. I'd probably lean towards we'll slide to a quad two. But
does it feel like a 7-13 SEC team or something like that?
Yeah, I could see that. I wonder what Ken Palm ultimately has it projected out
they
as.
Sorry, they only do 18 games. He has 7-11. So there you go. I didn't even see that before I looked at it.
And it's hard to call because while Kansas is a challenge, the Memphis game in their opener was a challenge. They came in. Ken Palm had them as 364th of 364 teams in strength of schedule up to this point. They had the softest strength schedule in the country. All their games at home, all their games mostly bye games outside of Kansas and Memphis and Cal as well, who they barely beat. So still, time will tell. They're a decent team, and they play a style that's challenging, and they'll try to out physically you, turn you over. But my guess would be quad 2 as of now.
Yeah, and they forced Illinois into 17 turnovers. Continues to be a problem for this team, right? As they will turn the ball over. And Kasparas is a part of that. He had 5 tonight, which is pretty typical. But Tomislav with 3 turnovers tonight. Morez with 2. Trey White with 2. Kylan Boswell with 2. So played a role in that. All right, Def had a really good question. 1999 Super Chat. Thank you, Def. Obviously, with a missed field goal, we couldn't find whether Brad learned from the Tennessee timeout situation. But would you have fouled with the up 3, Derek? Glad Missouri missed that last 3. Refs sucked. You guys rock. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody out there, by the way. But it's a great question. After Kylan misses the free throw, would you have fouled up 3, Derek?
I think yes. I think the answer is yes. There is a screen grab. Our good friend Trevor Valise put it out, and Missouri has the ball probably 30 feet in the backcourt, 30 feet from the rim, back in the backcourt with 3 seconds left. I think at that point you foul. Maybe not immediately after the free throw. There's too much time left. You worry about make one and a putback or just extending the game too much and whatnot. But if they will willingly run it down to about 3 seconds, then you foul, in my opinion.
The hard part is Kylan missed the free throw, so it's kind of a scramble situation, right? So that's where I get concerned about fouling. The other part is, well, like the analytics, like I would play those numbers most of the time, and especially, yes, when you're talking about like they were struggling to find an opening, and they took a really contested shot at the end, but it's a 3 of 13 from 3 team. This isn't a very good 3-point shooting team. Like Mark Mitchell, I was nervous that one would go in, but he's not a great 3-point shooter. So I just felt like against this team, they were making most of their free throws. If it wasn't Mitchell, like he missed 6 of their 9 free throws. So I think they would have made both. And do I want an inbound situation with 5 or 6 seconds left with Illinois? I think I just would have played it out, given what my strengths are, what Missouri's strengths are. But yeah, I think there's an argument if you would have had like 3 seconds left and say Kylan Boswell knew that, like maybe you do that foul. But without the stoppage of play, I think it was a tougher call because you're kind of scrambling. Maybe you should have had that conversation before they took a free throw, but I don't think there was a timeout before, was it? I don't know.
I think you probably swung a lot of people by saying the word inbounds.
Didn't that terrify everyone when I said it? You got to do an inbounds play with 4 or 5 seconds left. That terrifies me.
I think that changes things for sure.
I'll take my chances with them shooting the 3 contested. Yeah, I mean Mitchell got a decent look. Sidestep, hit the 3, but hell of a rebound by Kylan Boswell, who's all over it. So thank you, Def, for that. Fedigator, great win. Mizzou sucks. The NCAA, with all the money coming in, has got to develop a bigger referee pool that is full-time job. I love everybody that wants to be a referee because I don't understand why anybody would want to do it. It's a really unforgiving job, but yeah, we got to find a way to get it better, right? I thought tonight was a struggle. I try to give the referees credit when they're really good games. Like I thought the Arkansas game was really well called. I just want it to look more like basketball. Like in the last 2 games, at times it just hasn't felt like basketball there.
Right. Heinies Anderson might work too much. I think Ken Palm had the stat. I think he had the most games, whether it's last year or here recently. He's always – and that's one of the things. I mean, these guys, not to say that's the reason, but they're all over the country a bunch of nights a week. And it is just a tough job. Like when it is that physical of a game and you've got the athletes that you have and you can't call everything, but you got to try to make it fair enough. So it's a really hard ask to get a good officiated game like that. And
no one sits there and goes, great job. Right? When do we ever say great job to these referees? But yeah, that's kind of the job. You're always the problem. Never do a good job.
Yeah. I like to see games that err on the side of let them play. And if you miss a couple of hacks, I'd rather that than like some ticky tack.
More like Northwestern, right?
Yeah, more like Northwestern in my opinion.
Yeah,
And I know you run the risk of guys just getting hammered, and that's the standard now. You can just do whatever you want. But that's where I would like to see it, because once you start calling almost everything, then everybody wants every little bit, head nod there or little bump here, and then it gets way out of hand.
Can you tell Derek was a product of 1990s NBA basketball right there?
Yeah, I know, right?
The New York Knicks, Miami Heat. Watched a bunch of those series. All right, Derek. So Illinois 8-3. They got one Big Ten game in there, a loss to Northwestern, but 8-2 in the non-conference. All respect to Chicago State that they deserve, but they're 0-14. They're 361st among 364 teams in the Division I. So as Joey and I are at the bowl game, I don't even know if I'll watch that game, Derek. I'll let you cover that one before you head out to Oregon and Washington for a big trip for Illinois to start. But how would you grade the Illinois non-conference schedule? Going 8-2, two of your losses are the two of the best teams in the country in Alabama and Tennessee. And you got good wins. I'm sorry, two Big Ten games with Wisconsin, good win, Missouri, good neutral win, Arkansas, good neutral win. So how would you kind of grade the Illini's non-conference there?
Yeah, I feel like the Northwestern blowing of that lead is really what knocks it down a little bit. And this felt like the swing game. You dropped this one, you're 1-4 in quad ones, and it just not feeling great about where things are going, or just a lot of questions. I think it's a solid B to start to the season. That's where I would land on it. Ultimately, Northwestern would be the thing that's keeping it from B+ and be A-, where you're not going to fret about the Bama loss. Tennessee, I think once you get kind of into the circumstances of that game, it was just Tennessee didn't play that great offensively. Their guys fouled out, and Ziegler and Lanier. It was just kind of there for the taking, and you couldn't quite get it done. So that was disappointing. And I'd probably be wrong to give it an A-, even given those circumstances. If they, Northwestern win, but you still drop that one at home to Tennessee. But yeah, I think it's a solid B. Arkansas is one that we're also probably going to be watching and monitoring as far as quad 1, quad 2. They're in the 40s in the net last time I checked. But they haven't lost since that Thanksgiving game. So I would be pulling for Cal's team. I think that will land in quad 1 if I had to guess. And then, Wisconsin's a nice win, and this one pretty decent as well. And, Bama, you took that one on the chin a little bit, but you didn't get blown out. You learned some things. Kasparas showed some things in that one. I think that was a turning point for Kylan offensively. And obviously still can do better, but showed some aggressiveness off the dribble. And, you're 23rd in Ken Palm now. You're top 20 in the net. Very solid where you're at after 2 months.
Yeah, I think you give it a solid B-, B. I'm right there with you, Derek. Like the Northwestern one, disappointing. Tennessee, disappointing because you didn't pull it out when you had the chance, right? You had a lead with 2.5 minutes left, and you weren't able to win that one. So it's disappointing in the moment. But I think you showed you can play with anybody in the country on your home court there. I think you've shown you can go win tough games on the road with opponents who I think you're more talented than. Maybe not Arkansas. You're better coached, I think, than Arkansas. But you went and won that game there. Wisconsin came to town. You're able to win that. And then Missouri, in a tough game, you find a way to win. I might lean more towards B because I'm encouraged about things I didn't think I'd be encouraged about. Defense, rebounding, physicality. Like I didn't think those would be things I felt good about after the non-conference. The things that I'm concerned about are things that I think should even out at some point. Like I think Ben Humberkaus and Will Riley are going to make more shots than they do right now. And that's contributing to, two of your losses and some of the ugliness that you've had here the last couple games. But I think you got a dude in Kasparas Jakucionis. I think you got Trey White and Kylan Boswell, who look like two really good transfer additions. Oh, and Tomislav Ivisic has been such a valuable piece of this team. And I don't want to overlook, tonight he only hit 1 3, but you see him make that 3 and you're like, this is why this offense is so difficult when he can make those. So I just think you've put together a roster I think can compete in the Big Ten. Will they win it? Might be hard after losing to Northwestern, and some of the other teams we talked about, Maryland, Michigan State are better than we expected. But I think Illinois is going to have a chance to win a dozen plus games in the Big Ten. So they're kind of right where I thought they would be record-wise, and kind of projects to me to be a 12, over 500 Big Ten team that if they make shots and they keep defending like they are and rebounding like they are, I think they have a chance to be in it in the last couple of weeks of the Big Ten race.
Yeah, I agree with all that for sure. It is frustrating you didn't get that quad 1A type of win in Tennessee, and you wonder how many chances you'll have at that in the Big Ten, maybe at Oregon, depending on if they are a legit Big Ten title contender, and how that projects going forward. We'll see who really establishes himself, because it is a wide open Big Ten, especially if you got a handful of legit contenders there towards the top. So Illinois, talent-wise, certainly has what it takes. I do agree that I think the toughness and rebounding parts of it can really play in a league where that's usually part of what you need to have to be in that top tier ultimately, as far as that goes. So can they keep adding layers offensively? Because I think the game plan is going to be blow up the pick and roll or the pick and pop, the ball screen stuff for Illinois with KJ and whatnot. Can Illinois find different ways to counter that, but also just have different dynamics to their offense? I think that's going to be key going forward. But like you said, like this, as you looked at it, you thought that this could be the most turbulent part of the year because of it being an entirely new team, because the youth they had, guys that hadn't played college basketball, and 8-3. I'm not selling you on it's spectacular, it's glowing and whatnot, but it's very solid, and now we'll see if they can continue to grow from it. And I think late game moments, they'll get to a point where they look more composed and more like they've been there before. And it's on both to take those next steps, but so far it's a very solid foundation, and it's something to build on for sure.
It's kind of where they're always at. It seems like under Brad Underwood, it feels like they're kind of 8-3 going into conference play, and could have a tough couple games with starting on the road again with Oregon and Washington there. But one of the biggest things for me is like didn't have back-to-back losses. Like the last 2 seasons so far, this team has not had back-to-back losses. Kudos to staff, but kudos to the players as well for not letting things kind of pile up, right? I think that's so important when you're playing such a tough schedule as Illinois is. Get to a couple more things here. Ken, big win for the Fighting Illini, enjoying having multiple point guards this year as opposed to none. Derek, yeah, having 2 lead guards.
It's more within the Brad Underwood, the roster building that we've expected through his tenure, right? I mean, he's had that through transitions of, you have both, obviously, Io and Trent. You factor in Felice. You actually had maybe 3 point guards there at one point. Curbelo with Trent Frazier and whatnot. So, yeah, it's nice to have, certainly, when you got multiple legit on-ball playmakers. And I think Kylan is – early on, there were some real questions about, Kylan, is he tight enough with the ball, making good enough decisions? His turnover rate was high earlier in the year. He's settled in a lot more. And obviously, KJ, we know what he can do. So those guys are just – like you said it earlier, where do they rank? And I know Trotter tweeted about it too. Where do they rank in the country? It's pretty high up there, especially I can't name a better one in the Big Ten. I think that it's Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, profile-wise, offensively. But
you can make the case for Braden over Kylan,
yeah.
I think, because of what he's done. And he's a really good player without Zach Edey. Before Illinois fans jump in on that, like he's still a really, really tough point guard. Kasparas is just a dude. Like Lawyer's a good shooter. He's a veteran, but I would take Illinois.
Yeah. I just is a big thing in there too.
I could understand like Braden Smith getting all Big Ten first team, just the toughness, the maturity, takes care of the ball way better than Kasparas. But just give me that dude who can go get points, and then Kylan with his defense. Speaking of this, you're right. Said, can KJ stop with all the costly turnovers? Is it just something you have to take the good with the bad kind of thing with him? What do you think?
Some of it, yes. Some of it, he does need to learn from some of the mistakes or lazy passes. And look, there's a lot on his plate as far as seeing the best perimeter defender on any given team. On the scheme is going to be let's mess up their ball screen action. Because if you let them, Arkansas was the perfect example. You sit and drop, and you let him come off every time and make decisions on either to go get his own or to throw it back to Tommy, and he's just in rhythm and the offense flows. You're in for a tough night as a defense. So. But I'm not excusing all of that. I think we're to a point now where we know how good KJ is. And even though he's a freshman, we can raise the bar of expectation for him. I'm not saying that people aren't, but part of it is the next step would be cutting down on some of those things. And he does get a little loose with the ball at times. And the Mizzou, to their credit, was really handsy. When he tried to gather, they were swatting at it. When he was trying to make a pass, they jumped and were up and anticipating. And I think part of it's just learning. And I know that Brad talks a ton about how much he's in the film room and whatnot. That's part of it, seeing how defenses attack him. And I think it's more games under his belt, he'll get more solid with it. We saw that out of Curbelo as a freshman too, is the back half of his freshman season. He really was a lot more sure-handed with it.
Yeah, it's just there's some cocky plays he makes that he needs to probably stop a little bit at some points. He's so good at seeing the floor. Like, he's such a high usage player. I don't care if he has 3 or 4 turnovers. It's just when you have 5 or 6 and some of them are just like, yeah, you can't do that, man. I don't want to take that out of his game, right? And I think Brad, that's the way he's treating it. It's like, let's let him figure it out. I don't need to harp on it. I don't want to say don't make any turnovers, because then you're not going to get the spectacular plays that he does, and he's not going to be the player that you want. But yeah, it's those 1 or 2 a game that are just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, right? Like those are the ones that I think you want to take out. All right, anything else, Derek, before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's enjoy it.
Is Cade super pumped? What's he, 3, 4 now?
He'll be 3 in the spring. He's got the height of more of like a 4-year-old. He's really springing up there, and he's super pumped. He's all into as many Christmas lights as you can show him, and the blow ups now that you got, and all of that. So
he's a Grinch guy, right?
Oh, he loves Grinch. Yeah,
loves the Grinch.
He's got multiple Grinch sweatshirts that pretty much all he wants to wear, and he's into it, man, for sure.
That's awesome.
And he loves trains, which is a good segue. Polar Express, you're just part of that. He's banging into the Christmas train.
Kids are 5 and 8, right in the middle of it, man. Like, they're having the time of their lives. So yeah, we come down to Braggin Rights, make it a holiday tradition. We do the Polar Express, and we're gonna go get dinner and maybe go on the Ferris wheel here. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Appreciate you making this part of this. And Braggin Rights is always a fun game to get down and kind of start the holidays. Everyone got their day drinking in, and now the Illini fans can continue it as they celebrate in St. Louis. But for Derek Piper, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.